Have you ever run a session of Dungeons & Dragons, or any other tabletop role-playing game before? Are you a player wanting to take a turn behind the screen? Welcome to GMUERI. Thanks to our friends at Elder Goblin Games for coming up with this idea. Link to Elder Goblin Games down below. Here are 3 tips to get started being a dungeon master or game master in the coming year. Here is my most basic recommendation for becoming a better game master. Be like a quilt. Take on a little piece of anything that resonates with you. If you like some of what Matt Mercer does, try to emulate that in your own way. If you see something in a Matt Colville video, hang on to that. Maybe you like the session prep advice from Luke over at the DM's Lair. Try it. Please hang on to bits and bobs of everything that resonates. My next piece of advice might sound strange to some people. There's a saying my military friends like to use that I try to teach everyone who knows me. If it's stupid and it works, it isn't stupid. In other words, even if something seems incredibly silly, try it. If it works, do it again. For example, if you use a different voice for a big bad guy that sounds like a well-known movie character, and the players are cool with it because it helps them remember who he is, then stick to it. Start attaching speech mannerisms and vocal tics from well-known characters to your recurring characters. It will likely help you remember who they are, too. On the other hand, if it doesn't work, don't do it again. Go in, fix it, and maybe retcon something if need be. This often happens when making rules decisions on the fly without consulting a rulebook. Such is life. Stuff happens. GM, remember last week when Bob the fighter fell into that chasm, and I said he took to 3d6 damage? Well, I rolled too many dice. He gets 17 hit points back, putting him at 1 hit point. You can hear him groaning from the bottom of the chasm. Bob's player, yay. Thank you. I'm back, albeit with 2 broken legs. Help me. The main thing is, if you make a mistake, please try and learn from it. None of us are perfect. Hopefully players will understand. Bonus tip. Don't be this guy. This is the Vulture GM. He will go on YouTube and tell you that you're doing it all wrong, that he has more experience than you, and if you don't do it his way, you must be terribly stupid. Please don't listen to him when he says these sorts of awful things. He will also go on to tell you that you're running your game wrong, possibly playing as a player wrong, and that your edition of D&D is all wrong. Please don't let him convince you that role-playing is some super serious endeavor. Are you and your fellow players having fun? Then don't worry about what the Vulture GM or anyone else says. Keep doing things your way. Also, if you're new, don't believe any of what the Vulture GM might say about the old school tabletop role-playing game community on YouTube. They're not some super secret illuminated organization that will eat your dog, steal your truck, run off with your wife, repossess your double-wide trailer, and cast lies about you on the YouTube. It's just not like that, but please don't take my word for it. Explore the OS or on YouTube and find out. There are a lot of great content creators out there. I'm not even technically old school, but Vulture thinks I'm in on the conspiracy. Maybe it's because I'm 52 and I've been gaming for 40+ years of it. I don't know. I'm just a huge fan of all tabletop role-playing games. I love gaming. I like old games and games that arrived in my inbox from Kickstarter last week. That's not old by any stretch of the imagination. Poor Vulture GM. That's enough about the Vulture for now. But we have one more of my favorite tips to discuss. Bonus tip number 2. Run your game the way you and your players enjoy it. It's great to borrow tips and tricks wherever you find them. But don't try to be Matt Mercer, or Matt Colville, or that actual play game master you saw on YouTube. Every last one of us has a different style. We all have different game preferences, and one playstyle is no better or worse than the others. Please believe me when I say, do it your way. Yes, some players might go in expecting you to do everything like they see on Critical Role, or some other actual play series. Your group isn't going to be the same. Work with your players. Expect them to be themselves and no one else. Have fun with the game. My last tip, which I've said before on here, is love your players. Be respectful, kind, considerate, and above all else treat them the way you would want to be treated as a player. There can be a sense of pressure when you're on the GM side of the screen. I get it. I'd have to burn my super secret Society of Evil Game Masters card if I said we aren't here to challenge, injure, and possibly unalive some characters. Remember, characters, not players. Never ever hurt the players or they won't come back. But as game masters, we must act in opposition to the player characters, otherwise there's no game. That doesn't mean you have to be a jerk to the players or nasty to their characters all the time. Role-playing came from the fine hobby of miniatures wargaming. Wargame judges have to be impartial. They have no stake in the outcome of the battle. Both sides must be treated equally and fairly. However, role-playing game masters or dungeon masters have their own forces to control. We still have to be fair and mostly impartial though. Caveat to that: if you have to be partial in the player's favor, if at all possible. It's the art of losing gracefully. As game masters, we often have to create all these masterful villains and monsters, but eventually see them get jailed or defeated. A quick shout out to our friend, the OG GM, for all of his continued support. Please help him make this year he hits 2001 subscribers. I really hope this is going to be his year. Have fun. Take care of yourself. See you again real soon.